regime in place during the last presidential election, and by the way, I think it remains in place, in the federal agencies, telling information providers, the social media companies, what they can and cannot run. No one's been held accountable. Meanwhile, Julian Assange is still in prison thanks to our efforts. Would you pardon him, and would you hold those people who are violating the First Amendment accountable?
So these people that violated the First Amendment, they need to be held accountable for that. People died as a result of that because they were censoring truthful information about COVID that if people would have adopted those policies, the country would have been better off. Individual states would have been better off. And so I think it had a profound effect. The fact that they censored dissent on COVID meant some kids got locked out of school for a year. The fact that they censored dissent on COVID meant that some people took some of these booster shots when they didn't need to, and they ended up having an adverse reaction. So it had major, major impact. So I think not just with the censorship, I think everything involving COVID, I think there needs to be major, major accountability, because if there's not, if you don't have a reckoning, they are going to do it again. They are going to do it again. Now, in terms of using pardon, my goal is to end the weaponization of government. And that involves firing people. It involves taking parts of the DOJ and putting them in other states. Iowa, if you guys want a part of the DOJ, I'll send it out here, send it to Alabama, wherever. And we're going to do that. We're going to take power out of Washington. But part of what you need to do, if you have a two-tiered system of justice, you need to make sure if there's some people that got away that shouldn't have, they need to face the music. And if there are other people that are getting targeted through abuse of government, then there needs to be use of the pardon power. So the day after the election, we're going to open up an ability for people to submit applications, ask for the pardon based on whether they were treated dissimilarly or whether the government mobilized against them. And so we're going to do it the front end of the administration. I'm not going to wait till my last day in office. Do it the front end. And if people are doing that, and that's part of ensuring a single standard of justice, we will be willing to use the pardon power. It's going to be done on a case-by-case basis, because I'm a governor, and I've actually had to look at these things, and you owe it to everybody to do that. But we will be issuing pardons, and that'll be determined based on the facts and circumstances at the time.
We know that the U.S. government reads the private communications of American citizens by the tens of millions without a warrant. And everyone knows this. It's been revealed. They've admitted it. And no one has moved to stop it. Do you think that there's a good reason to allow this? How can that be?
No. I mean, I think the federal government has a responsibility to protect us from foreign threats. We're going to have intelligence capabilities overseas, but to turn those on our own citizens, especially with this government's behavior, is totally untenable. I am going to go in and declassify or put as much stuff out as I can. I think that you guys have a right to know things that happened 60, 70 years ago that the government's kept under wraps. Now, obviously...
What?
Obviously, if things that are more recent, if there's stuff, I mean, you have to make those judgments. But my default is going to be that they're going to have a high burden to justify why it shouldn't be public for some of these main things that we all talk about that have occurred in the past, because the government uses classification as a way to evade accountability for itself. I think there is a legitimate use of classified information, but it's like what should be classified and what actually is like so much more. And so it's all about protecting their power. But it's a huge, huge problem in how they've conducted this. And to turn the government on the American people, that's the founding fathers' worst nightmare.
So let me just end